name is Tinashe Makoni. I am from Zimbabwe. I work for the Private Infrastructure Development Group, where I'm the General Counsel. So one of the reasons I joined PIDG is because I absolutely love its mission, developing pioneering infrastructure in a climate-aligned way and changing lives and pulling people out of poverty. It's deeply important to me, and PIDG facilitates that. However, the need is so great in Africa, and there's just not enough work being done in the sector. The money's there, the willingness is there, and the need is there, but the projects just aren't being done. And one small part I think we can play in all of this is bringing together all the stakeholders involved in here, providing a platform and an opportunity for people to meet, to exchange ideas, to learn from the successes in their various jurisdictions, avoid the mistakes, and also build the partnerships that will develop the infrastructure that will provide jobs and pull people out of poverty. And one sector in particular that I feel we could do better as an industry to support is the governments. In particular, the people involved in procuring and structuring projects. We all have heard the data that the vast majority of projects, and the numbers vary, but numbers as high as 80% of projects fail during the planning and development, the planning and the structuring phase. And we wanted to provide a platform and a place where colleagues in the public sector who are involved in planning, procuring and structuring projects can learn from their colleagues in other jurisdictions. It was important for us to have contributions from both Kenya, but other jurisdictions, Uganda, Nigeria, Malawi, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe as well as cross-pollination of ideas with the private sector, from the developers who are going to build the projects and the financiers who are going to finance the projects. And it was particularly encouraging to see the entire PIDG family represented here, from our TA team to Infraco Africa to Garanco, Emerging Africa. It was absolutely incredible. Next time we'll have Infraco Asia involved here as well, because I think there's some valuable insights from Asia that we can learn and implement here in Africa. I think we deliberately created space for people to interact. We had long coffee breaks, which were great, so we could have coffee, but also so we could meet one another and share ideas. We had a cocktail reception yesterday, which was, apart from having great cocktails and great food, was just, again, an intentional space where people could learn from one another, share ideas, and build relationships, which hopefully they can cultivate, nurture, grow, and importantly, turn into action. There's an African proverb which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And that's been one of the themes here, one of collaboration, the need to build intentional, dynamic partnerships that actually deliver change. And we move beyond talking to actually doing.
My name is Gideon Magara. I work for the Public-Private Partnerships Directorate as a legal counsel. The Public-Private Partnerships Directorate is a very specialized directorate within the Ministry of Finance or the National Treasury of Kenya. For the government, it's quite important for me to have an understanding of what the private sector has to say. And for me, again, it's in keeping up with the spirit of public-private partnerships. As the word itself suggests, we cannot work alone as a public sector. If we are to successfully undertake PPP projects as a public sector, we ought to hear the perspective of the private sector. And I was quite privileged to get very many good ideas from very good minds within the house on how best we can actually undertake PPP projects. So for me, it's actually a fresh breath of air, listening to all these brilliant minds and getting a new perspective on what is it that the private sector want to see from the government side in terms of the various kinds of support. What I've enjoyed the most is, again, and at the expense of sounding quite repetitive, is listening perspectives from the private sector. and not just from one particular sector. I've had perspective from the banking sector. I've had the perspective of the private developers, and how is it that all of them can synergize to help the government build on infrastructure projects. And for me, this is very important because at the end of the day, as a public sector, I would want to deliver on infrastructure projects, but I cannot do it alone. I can only do it if I hear and understand the private sector perspective. So for me, it's been important to create that synergy with the private sector, and also, again, to network, which is something that it's not quite easily done within the public sector perspective. So it has been a great networking session for me, and that's my biggest takeaway.
My name is Shija. I work with the Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund, which is managed by 91, and I'm based out in Cape Town. I think it was important to attend the event for a couple of reasons. I think it's a useful opportunity to interact with a number of key stakeholders in the infrastructure space, namely government, private sector players, as well as us who are the lenders. And I think that's a useful conversation in order to address the infrastructure shortfall that we find on the continent. I think relates to just the networking opportunity. As a lender, we're always looking for new opportunities to take part in these events in order to understand what the market needs and where we can serve the market in order to drive the infrastructure development of the continent. What have I enjoyed the most? Generally the interactions. It's been good as an opportunity as a PIDG member group, a member of the PIDG group in the form of EIF, to interact with the various businesses that PIDG is a shareholder in. And I think that's a very useful opportunity and aspect in terms of building interrelational connections between the group. The general conversation that's happened, there have been some tough debates, there have been some questions that have been asked, and it's good in that sense to, sense check your assumptions about how, the infrastructure development is happening across the continent. So those have been key aspects of what I've enjoyed. Takeaways, I think, it's the key one, I think, is that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We've come a long way, and that's very good in the context of the development of the African continent. It's now for the next generation to build on what's been achieved in order to ensure that we drive towards a prosperous future in Africa. So yeah, that would be my key takeaway, and the conversation that's happening here is very encouraging in that respect.
My name's Luke Foley, and I'm the Deputy Head of Technical Assistance at the Private Infrastructure Development Group. The event was a really good opportunity to share our experience in the sector and on the continent, as well as to learn from others, particularly those who were on the government side of transactions, such as the PPP units and directorates, as well as learning the perspectives of developers and lenders as well. It's important it was important for PIDG to organize this event because PIDG is part of the solution, not the entire solution. So it's important to get others involved, again, to share our ideas and our experience within the sector, but understand that we will need others to join us along the way and bring in their innovative solutions. What I've enjoyed most about the event is the interaction that we've had, both in terms of with the panels themselves, but also in the coffee breaks as well, because there's a lot to learn and make those connections with people to share ideas and support on future transactions.
My name is Joy Omigo, in-house counsel, legal counsel at Infraco Africa, which is an organization that is part of the PIDG group. It was important because the key theme and the topics that were being discussed are very key and essential in my area of practice. And I wanted to get key insights from both government and private sector players in terms of the infrastructure needs and the infrastructure development. Actually, I enjoyed a couple of things. The first thing is the fact that we had both government, both public and private players, and to discuss this interesting topic about infrastructure development. And the key takeaways from this workshop is that there needs to be collaboration for there to be effective and efficient infrastructure development in the region, and also the fact that you need to have a very sound procurement and project preparation arrangements from both players for you to be able to successfully implement a project, a PPP project. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Primah Atugonza. I am the sector lead for PPPs and infrastructure at the African Legal Support Facility. The African Legal Support Facility is an international organization that assists African governments with advising on complex commercial contracts in power, PPPs and infrastructure, sovereign debt, as well as extractives. And we also do a lot of capacity building for government officials and lawyers on the African continent. It was really important for me to attend the event because I thought it would be a space where all the key stakeholders would be involved. I was particularly interested in, of course, the public sector, so I was very happy about the people from the PPP unit, but I was also happy to see the developers, the financiers, and everyone else that makes a project actually happen in the same room and trying to get onto the same page to speak the same language. So I enjoyed the diversity of the panels. I thought that we had panels that covered the art of the deal, we had panels that covered public sector considerations, financial considerations, but I would say my key takeaway is the fact that the base of a successful project is successful project preparation. So the documents and everything else comes out of a good feasibility study, good project preparation, which needs all the stakeholders to start, hit the ground running at the beginning of the project. So I'll take that back and think more about that.
My name is Camilla Achieng Omollo. I am legal counsel at Mirova Sunfunder. We are a private debt financing firm focusing on the solar space and working in sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and eventually Latin America. It was important for me to attend this event, firstly because I love infrastructure. I love discussions around bankability, risk allocation, and structuring. I also knew it would be a fantastic opportunity to network with my colleagues in this space and to learn from professionals both in the private and the public sector. I think it's important to have conversations between the two stakeholders and parties, and hopefully that will enable us to work more efficiently on our projects. I think I've enjoyed the fact that people from so many different backgrounds within the infrastructure space have been able to sit in one room and discuss the challenges and opportunities they see within our work and our sector. Importance of considering innovative and creative approaches to providing guarantees and credit enhancement instruments for infrastructure projects. I think we've had discussions about the need to reinvent the wheel a little in this regard, so that's something I'm definitely going to take back.
My name is Muriungi. I'm part of the PIDG team. I work alongside PIDG TA as legal counsel. This event was really important for PIDG because, one, we really want to get dialogue going around solutions to the infrastructure challenge in Africa. I think also because we needed a forum where private sector, public sector, developers, financiers could come together and share ideas on how to do things better. What lessons have we learned? What can we mimic from each other? What can we scale up? Where do we need to focus our attentions on in order to deliver the solutions to the infrastructure challenge that Africa is facing? The event has been a really great time for the attendees and the panelists to interact. It's been incredibly interactive. I think that was the most enjoyable part of it. And because of these great interactions, there's been a lot of brainstorming and a lot of idea sharing that's happened in the last 2 days. We've had people come up and share with us structures that they've implemented that they think will be replicable, that will solve some of the challenges on the other side of the table. And so that sort of idea sharing has been really instrumental. I think that for me personally, I've learned a lot just by listening in and participating. And I think that one of the biggest takeaways is now we have an opportunity for even better dialogue. People are actually reaching out across the table and saying, why did this work? How did it work? I think we could use that idea, and thank you so much for sharing. And I think that's a really great takeaway.